Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shuffle. Thanks for being with us. Mike Walters is here. Mike runs the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And Pat Gowan from the Post-Dispatch is alongside. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
Pat, former Madison County Treasurer Fred Bathon has pleaded guilty to federal antitrust violations that were tied to property tax sales and campaign contributions while he was serving as treasurer of Madison County. Were you surprised by the plea?
Well, I guess the extent to which I'm surprised depends upon what point in time you pick. I thought Fred was a pretty effective public official. He is one of the bluntest people ever to hold office. I once suggested in a column that the man had won elective office over and over, had baked up his candidacy using no sugar in the recipe whatsoever. You didn't wonder what he thought. He would tell you to your face whatever it was. And he picked fights with other officials, primarily fellow Democrats, because there weren't many Republicans around anyway, but it didn't matter. He sort of lambasted the people he didn't like pretty strongly one way or another. He was a colorful character who made a lot of news and took some hits and took them like a man and dished it back twice. And then he resigns sort of suddenly, and then we start getting indications that maybe there are improprieties in the way that delinquent tax properties have been auctioned. Once it was revealed, long before he was charged with anything, when it was revealed that he essentially had arranged tax sales to benefit contributors to his campaign at the expense of people whose homes were being put up for sale for taxes. Once that was out and it was so obvious what had happened, from that point, I assumed it was only a matter of time before he would be charged. Now, he got what those of us who cover courts call a package deal. It was not favoritism, it just was a one-stop shopping. Instead of the ordinary, he's been indicted, he makes a court appearance, he enters a plea, pleads not guilty, he goes to trial. This was all done at once. He was essentially waived an advance indictment, pleaded guilty to a charge on the spot, will go to prison for something between under 3 and almost 4 years, 3.5 years under this agreement. I was surprised when it came out what was going on. I was surprised they didn't fight. I mean, his nature has always been to scrap, to fight. He didn't deny it. He didn't try to rationalize it. He pleaded guilty straight up to it, having obviously made a deal with prosecutors, and part of that deal appears to be cooperation against others, presumably people who benefited from the way that the tax sales were rigged. But it's a disappointment, to be sure, disappointment whenever a public official goes down. Fred had been the county auditor for many years, switched to be the county treasurer for many years, and I think he was a voice of reason sometimes when one was needed. I think he was a foil to the Democratic machine, even as a Democrat at a time when there weren't enough Republicans in office to do that. So I think he brought some positive things to the table, but overall a tremendous disappointment. And a disappointment for a guy who was raised in an orphanage, who had kind of a hard luck beginning in life, to end up going down preying upon people who were at hard luck times in their lives.
You mentioned that prosecutors talk about a conspiracy here. Do you see charges coming against others within the county or with the businesses that he was working with?
The United States Attorney did not say there would be additional charges. However, what he did say came as close to that as you can possibly come without actually using those words. So I would be very surprised if there weren't charges filed, presumably against some of the participants in this, what the feds call a rigged auction.
Mike, were you surprised by the outcome of this, that Fred Bathon resigned, or rather confessed, pleaded guilty, without any kind of formal charging and trial?
No, as you might know, I'm on the county board and I've been on there since '06, so we've been hearing about what Mr. Bathon has done for quite some time. As a matter of fact, when it was brought out by Kurt Prenzler and several of the Republicans what was going on, several of the news facilities had the original story, and then we brought the additional information that showed the number of people that had been wronged, the amount that they had presumably been wrong. And we went to one facility and they looked at us and said, it's all political, we're not going to touch it, which is frustrating because, as most of you know, if you see any time Rick Fasten has been on TV or in a meeting going after Kurt Prenzler. That's on the front page of some of these papers. But that's not political. But back to Fred. Mr. Bathon he wasn't liked by anybody really out in Madison County, I'll say. I got along with him fine. He always showed my father respect, so I always made sure I showed Mr. Bathon the respect. But should he do, I'm surprised at the little amount that he's getting for what he has done. There are people that lost their houses because of what he did. They're never going to get that back. Now, the state's attorney does have a website that they can go to if you've been wronged by Mr. Bathon and the tax buyers. You can go to the state's attorney's office. They'll give you and then you can put in the information and they'll be able to contact you. The thing that surprises me is Fred's the big fish in this whole thing. Normally they start at the bottom and work their way up to get people to turn on the bigger fish. Well, he's the big fish. That's who they wanted. That's why I'm surprised at the little amount of time that he is going to spend. The other question comes into play are the state's attorneys had to be there, so we knew that Mr. Now Judge Mudge, as everybody likes to call him, was there, somebody from his office. The clerk's office, which would have been Mark Van Ina, was there. And questions that have been asked to me is, what were they doing during this 5-year period where Mr. Bathon was doing this? Why didn't they come forward? Why didn't they say anything? Well, as Pat mentioned, Fred was very blunt, and some people think maybe they were afraid they didn't want to make Fred mad. Well, you made the taxpayers mad. And what happened here was an abomination. The Democrats, in this instance, have done everything they can to cover this up. After this happened, it was brought forward. Not one Democrat county-wide came out and said that Mr. Bathon, what you did was wrong. Now, some of them have said, well, in articles later I've said it. Sure, 2 years later you said it. But when this happened, this is where politics should have been put aside. And it should have come out and we should have all agreed what he did was wrong and what can we do to help the people. Instead, they've spent most of the last few years not covering it up, but not helping us to find out what can we do for the little people that were wronged in this situation. And to me, he's the big fish in the pond. I think he should have possibly gotten a little more time and a little bit larger fine, because this is going to cost the taxpayers money, because we're going to have to defend a lot of these lawsuits. I would imagine that they will name Madison County in the lawsuit because, let's face it, Mr. Bathon just lost his pension, so he's not going to exactly have a lot of money sitting around. But back to Mr. Bathon, he did do a lot of good, but it's been brought to the attention of many people that the last few years he was running his construction business out of the treasurer's office, that he was rarely there. Now, do I have proof that that happened? No. Have people told me that they've seen him do that? Yes. So, Mr. Bathon, although did have a hard childhood, turned it around, did very well, but in the minds of many, what he did is he became a corrupt politician, because he was in a situation where one party ruled, and it just happens to be a party that will take care of their own before they worry about the little people.
We need to take a break. We've got more Metro Talk coming up after this.
Welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check in with the Exercise Science Program and Shane Callahan.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I just don't have enough time to exercise? Well, here's a few ideas to get you more active from the comfort of your own home while enjoying some of your favorite TV shows. Your typical TV show has 4, 5, 6, even 7 2-minute breaks, which allows for 15, 20 minutes worth of activity. And the activity doesn't have to be very bold or very difficult, but just not wasting that time sitting idly can make all the difference in your health. Movements that use body weight, such as push-ups, sit-ups, dips, or wall squats, or even if you have a bottle of water and you want to do arm curls or a lateral raise, these are ways to better fitness. With that in mind, enjoy your show and become more fit.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
My cell phone number and John's cell phone number. Hey, pretty. And number of the restaurant where we're going to be. And I've left you my pager number too, just in case, because you never know. John, you have the gift?
The odds of a babysitter calling
Now, listen, I also told
911,
the neighbors that you were gonna
1
be
in
here,
1400.
So if anything should happen, please don't hesitate.
The
to
odds of a
call
child
me.
being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn the signs. Go to autismspeaks.org.
Good nutrition can lead to great things. Find out how a healthy lifestyle can help your child succeed.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shuffle. Pat Gowan and Mike Walters are here. Mike, Governor Quinn has delivered his annual State of the State address and has called for ethics reform and a $10 per hour minimum wage. Will we see lawmakers move forward on these items?
Well, of course, this is what you heard. He can't run on a record. His party's been in control of this state for 10 years, and let's look at where we are now. They'll tell you they inherited a $5 billion deficit. I understand that. I think the deficit now is $9 to $10 billion, plus we have $9 billion of unpaid bills. We have $97 billion of pension problems that over the last 10 years have just exploded. And so what do? You do as a good politician would do that has nothing to run on. You go out and say, hey, we're going to change the minimum wage to $10 an hour. Therefore, you're in the minds of many buying votes, the young kids, because the vast majority, I think it's in the upper 80s to low 90% of all minimum wage jobs go to high school kids and college kids. So what does the $10 an hour wage do? Well, for a family of four whose mom and dad are just scraping by, going to McDonald's now is going to cost more. Going to Burger King more is going to cost more. Going to any type of restaurant is going to cost more because the restaurant is going to have to raise their prices. They're probably also going to have to let a few people go. So now what happens is not only are the people that they're trying to help hurt, but more people are going to lose their jobs because of this $10 an hour wage increase. I mean, the NFIB, National Federation of Independent Businesses, are opposed to this. Businesses in general, I talked to the mayor of Godfrey. He's opposed to this because of what it's going to cost the village of Godfrey when they hire their part-time summer help. I mean, really the only people that are in favor of this right now are the unions. And the reason why they're in favor of it is once this passes, because I think the minimum wage now is $8.25, is now the unions, especially the ASME, will be able to then go and renegotiate their contracts because a lot of the ASME members are in more of a what you call minimum wage, but lower wage jobs. And now they're going to be able to go back to the businesses, to the cities and villages, and now they're going to ask to raise their members' pays up even higher. So that's the reason why the unions are in favor of it. You know, I brought up the pensions earlier, and it's funny because when we talk about those, the first thing out of the mouths of most legislators on the Democratic side is Jim Edgar did it first. Well, actually, it goes way back into the 40s and 30s when it first started, but it was Jim Edgar that probably did the largest non-payment. However, Governor Edgar put a plan in place to pay that money back. Once Rod Blagojevich got in there, he eliminated the payment and did not come up with any plan to pay it back. And now we're at $97 billion. I think it goes up $1.7 million a day for this unfunded pension. So unfortunately, Governor Quinn, this is all he can run on, is this and ethics, which as we know isn't going to go anywhere. I mean, we've got a state rep, Bill Mitchell from Decatur, who brought up a nice bill that basically said if you're going to run for the state legislator or a state office, you have to do a drug test. Well, they won't allow that out of rules. It sounds to me that's a great idea. He also has one that if you're on welfare to receive welfare payments, you have to be drug tested. Now, some people say, well, the cost will outweigh the benefits, but in my mind is if you, at the beginning, the upfront cost will, but then once you start getting them off of welfare, then the cost goes down. But Governor Quinn doesn't have anything to run on, so this is all he has.
Pat, $10 minimum wage and ethics reform, those were part of Governor Quinn's State of the State address. Will those move forward?
Well, for Quinn, politically, I think the minimum wage issue is getting it out there. I don't know that he has any real belief that he's going to be able to end up with the highest minimum wage of any state in the country at $10 an hour if he got it. I have no idea on God's earth how he would get that through a Republican-led Illinois Senate. And I imagine quite a few people in his own party are going to be lukewarm about it. So I think that was sending a message. I think mission accomplished by getting it into the speech, and whether anything else comes of it is anybody's guess. To some extent, probably true with the ethics legislation. One might think that Illinois would have gone on a stronger ethics bent after Blagojevich became the second governor, and out of two in a row to go to prison. Now Quinn's governor, and you're either going to be on the bandwagon or you're going to be suspect probably, and he wants to be the horse leading the bandwagon. Ever the populist, Quinn would like to see a mechanism for the people to propose ethics rules that could be put in place by initiative bypassing the General Assembly altogether. Doesn't seem like a terribly bad idea to me, but on the other hand, I don't know where you end that, because you can apply that to pretty much everything and eventually have the day come where you don't need a legislature, just have people at home signing petitions or pushing a button on the internet. So I think that would have to be constructed carefully. But in a State of the State address, a lot of this has to do with here's who I am, here's what I stand for, what I say I stand for. I'm sending the message to you. I can, as Mike says, I can run on it. You know, this was my proposal. I can't help it if the legislature doesn't do anything about it. So there's a lot of political posturing in this kind of speech. Doesn't make the proposals bad, doesn't make them good, and it doesn't make them probable.
We need to take a break. We have more right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program and WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year mass comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup Substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. The single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan's here along with Mike Walters. Pat, the Postal Service has announced it's going to end Saturday service. Congressman Bill Enyart says he's worried about the impact that's going to have on senior citizens and veterans. Is Enyart correct in his concerns?
I don't really quite understand it, but for me, this has already happened. I get 5-day-a-week mail delivery in Highland, Illinois. And on the 6th day, I get mail, and my wife and I have made a project of watching this. And maybe it's just the caprice of what shows up when. I don't know if it's the way it's sorted. The people at the post office are very nice. Our mail carrier is a gem. They're all great people. but we never ever get anything of substance on a Saturday. If it isn't like resident or occupant, we don't get it on a Saturday. Now we might get packages, we might get something, and I guess they're going to continue to deliver those on Saturday regardless. Having said that, now I mean, as a knock to the Postal Service, we don't care. It doesn't matter. In these days of widespread direct deposit, in these days of so much business being transacted over the internet and bills being paid that way and so forth, I can't think of anything that I need so badly that I can't wait till Monday to get it. Save except perhaps for a part or something that I ordered parcel post, which under this plan is going to come anyway. So it seems like it's a lot of ado about not very much. I'd like to talk to Congressman Enyart about what exactly his concerns are. I guess the idea is that if the benefit check comes in the mail and you don't get it till Monday instead of Saturday, that's going to be some kind of great hardship. But depending upon what time of day your mail is delivered, you may not get it in time to do anything with it until Monday anyhow. So I'm not surprised that this has happened, and I just in the days of electronics being what they are, it's not exactly an anachronism, but the year I was born was the year the Postal Service switched from twice a day delivery. There were 2 deliveries a day in most places until, well, a year when I was born that I won't mention. But it was like yesterday.
And they were delivered by horse at that point.
It was like, no, they had some steam powered. But I think these things are necessarily going to evolve, and that's the way which is going to evolve. And I couldn't make a very good argument for why I need Saturday mail delivery.
Mike, Congressman Enyart says this is going to hurt senior citizens, going to hurt veterans. Is he correct in that assumption?
I couldn't have said it better. What Pat said, he's hit it right on the nail on the head. Why do we have to have it? Like you said, if they're going to get it on Saturday, if it's a senior citizen, a veteran, who we do need to make sure we get them taken care of, but if they get it after 12 o'clock anyway, then it can't go deposit until Monday. And I believe the Postal Service ran a $1.5 billion deficit last year, so this is a way to control that, to bring those numbers back down. I don't have a problem with it.
Pat, Senator Dick Durbin is one of 8 senators who's introduced legislation to revamp the nation's immigration laws. Is he on the right track?
Well, it's certainly debatable. In these days of sort of intractable positions, I don't know how far he and his so-called gang of 8 are going to get with this thing, but as I understand it, effectively the Democrat position, which includes his, is to try to get immigration reform done as a single package of legislation, and to include on a path to citizenship not only people who are born here to immigrants who are not legal to be here, but to the parents as well. And that the shorthand for the Republicans is not so fast with the ones who weren't born here, and maybe we ought to bite this thing off and chew it in bites so that we can reach consensus on particular issues, work on that legislation, pass it, move on to the next issue. There's a part of me that feels like no matter what the outcome, it makes sense to have a holistic, intermeshed piece of legislation where it's all thought out at once, but maybe that's just not a practical thing to do. The fundamental problem of whether you allow people to stay who arrived illegally and what the consequences ought to be if they do stay, that's really the crux of the debate. Anybody who thinks that it is an economic reality to call out 11 million people and send them back to another country, what that would cost to do, I think you'd have to be crazy to think that could actually be done. But not for me to say as a reporter what goes on in between, but Durbin certainly has brought, I think, clarity to that side of the debate, and we could use clarity so that the public can sort of react as to what the public wants. But I see this as a long and arduous process because it is a very emotional issue for a lot of people, and more so in areas that have more Hispanic immigrant population than we have here. But I think it's an emotional issue everywhere.
Mike, Senator Dick Durbin is one of 8 senators who's pushing for immigration reform. Is he on the right track?
Well, this is where I may differ a little bit with Pat. I'm not a fan of Senator Durbin. I think when I've looked at the group of 8, you have 4 somewhat moderate Republicans, 2 moderate Democrats, and 2 extremely left-wing Democrats in Senator Schumer and Senator Durbin. I'd like to have seen more moderate Democrats so that we could actually come together. I don't foresee anything getting done when you have Senator Durbin and Senator Schumer as 2 people as the points for the Democrats, because they're not going to bend. Their hopes is they'll get everything they want, the Republicans have to give them what they want, or they'll say that the Republicans are trying to block everything. But I do believe there is a way to come together on this. I do believe that they can come up with a package to allow them to stay. Now, somebody brought up a great point. The people that are here illegally, don't allow them to vote. They've been living here, most of them have worked, which is great, but they haven't been paying income tax. They haven't been paying federal tax. And I believe that's a federal violation. Therefore, I believe once you've been arrested and you've got not a misdemeanor, but on your record, you're not allowed to vote. And I think that's a great idea, because I think if you took that off the table, I think then the Democrats' ideas of let's make them all legal wouldn't be so strong. Because let's face it, this is a political move. This is a way to bring in more votes. The Democrats are banking that it'll bring more votes on them, which history shows it did, because when Reagan allowed this to happen in the 90s, I think he received 37% of the vote his first term. Then he went ahead and allowed the illegal aliens to come in and become legal, and he only received 30% on the next election. So the Democrats see this as a boondoggle, not to help these people. I'm sorry to say, Senator Durbin and Senator Schumer, they see it as another way to bring in more Democratic votes to help them stay in power. I don't believe that they care about these people. I do believe that there are some Republicans that don't care about these people either, but I think that the 4 Republicans that you have on there do care. They do want to help bring this to an end. However, I will go back to Ronald Reagan. When he did this, he said, this is it. Once we allow this to go, this amnesty, anybody else who comes in here illegally is going to be shipped out. And as you see, many years later, what have we done? We don't have a wall. We don't have any protection from allowing people to climb over the walls. Let's look at what other countries do to these people that walk in there illegally. I mean, in Mexico, they'll shoot you. In Guatemala, you go to prison for years. In the United States, we just allow them to come in here. We'll give you all of our Social Security, all this money, and you can stay here.
That's going to do it for this edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Pat Gowan from the Post-Dispatch has been here, along with Mike Walters from the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.